Hey everybody, this is Paintball Dad. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the best recording devices for paintball. Now most of the videos on my channel are like the one you're watching right now, where I record tournament paintball footage using a DSLR camera. But it was about a year-long journey before I found my way into the DSLR camera world. And before then, I had used just about everything you could think of to try recording paintball. I used my phone, I used action cameras like GoPro and some off-brand ones, I even used a camcorder. So now if you're looking to make paintball videos, then this video is going to be for you. I'm going to go through everything I've learned in this past year about recording devices that I've bought. I'm going to let you know what to look for and what to avoid, as well as some ways to save some money while you're going through this journey. So let's start with the first thing that I use, which is obviously my phone. It's the same thing that most people will start using to record paintball because it's the most convenient thing. The footage you're seeing right now is footage that I recorded on my phone. Now, my phone is okay, but it's nothing super high-end. I have a Galaxy A32 5G. It has a 48 megapixel camera resolution and it can record at 4K in ultra-high def. Now, admittedly, phones have come a long way in recent times. You can actually get some decent quality footage out of a phone, but it does have its limitations, unless you go and get a really high-end phone like a brand new iPhone or Samsung. One of the most notable limitations is that I couldn't get a very far zoom on my phone, and when I did zoom in to the max capability of my phone, it got really grainy. Now, if you have a super fancy brand new phone, then that will immediately fix that problem. I actually have a friend who has a brand new iPhone. I don't know what version it is exactly, but I remember he took a picture of the moon and it looked crystal clear. I was able to see the craters in the moon very clearly, even when he zoomed in all the way. But now the catch to that is, if you get a really fancy and expensive phone, is it really something you're going to want to take out onto the paintball field? Probably not. You could get a waterproof casing for it, but I mean, if I had a brand new phone that was close to $1,000 or more, I still probably wouldn't feel too comfortable taking it onto a paintball field. But I will say that the higher end phones nowadays are actually a viable option for recording paintball and getting good quality footage, especially if you invest in some of the accessories that help you stabilize your hand. Then you're pretty much set. The only real drawback is that you do have to invest in one of the higher end phones, and looking at prices right now, I see that the iPhone 14 is still retailing at about $1,000, and it's not even the newest model of iPhone. I actually spent way less than that on my DSLR camera, even with an aftermarket lens. But in my opinion, a phone actually is a good option for recording paintball as long as you're willing to buy a very high-end model and buy the extra accessories like a waterproof case and hand stabilization accessories. Now, the next thing I used to record paintball was an action camera, and my very first action camera was actually a GoPro. It was the GoPro Hero 3. This was back in 2012 or 2013 that I first got it. Now, I don't have any remaining footage from way back then, but I will say that the early model GoPros were not great. It has taken a while for the technology to catch up to kind of videos that you see nowadays from GoPro. So I did buy some off-brand ones because they're cheaper and they have higher specs than the older GoPro models. But I still find that the video quality is not quite what I want it to be. So unfortunately, when it comes to action cameras, you still have the same problem as you do with a phone. You kind of need to buy the higher end models that are more expensive. The other inconvenient thing about action cameras is that if you want to make a good video out of them, you need to have multiple of them. I've only found one YouTuber so far that I actually like watching his GoPro footage for paintball. He goes by the name of Nightmare Paintball. If you get a chance, take a look at his videos. He does some really good stuff. But at any given time, he has at least 3 GoPro cameras on him. Now, he makes some really good videos with some pretty consistent action going on. But I learned that that's really hard to do with just one camera. First, I tried putting the camera on my head, and then when I went to go edit the video footage, I realized there was a lot of footage that was just blocked by the hopper being in the way of my camera. Then I realized that there was also a lot of shots that I had made that didn't get caught on camera because my head might have just been slightly tilted so that the camera was being blocked by the bunker. So then I decided to switch to a barrel camera instead of my head camera. But then that also had its own set of problems. I realized that there's a lot of time that gets taken up when my barrel is just faced towards the ground or pressed into a bunker. There were also some moments where I would get into some really heated gunfights and I'd be popping in and out of my bunker so fast that it kind of made me dizzy just watching the footage. Another really annoying thing was that I realized that the plastic accessories that come with the GoPro to attach it to either the gun or the head mount, some of the parts would actually break on me. So I had to buy some metal mounts from HK Army. Another unexpected problem that I had with the action cameras was that I would occasionally get paint smudges on the lens during the game. And it's just really upsetting when you have an awesome match or you get a really cool up-close shot during a game, and then you go to look at the footage and you realize it looks like garbage because there's paint all over the lens. But overall, I would say that action cameras are a pretty cool option. You can get some pretty good footage, but just keep these 3 things in mind if you're going to go the action camera route. Number 1, you're going to want to get some of the higher end action camera models. Even if you go for an off-brand one like Akaso, mine is the Akaso V50 Pro, it's not that bad, but I still would like something better because it still doesn't provide the cleanest kind of footage that I've seen in some other people's videos. And then the second thing is to remember that you're going to want to buy some aftermarket accessories, especially to replace the barrel mount that comes with most of these action cameras. Make sure you get a metal one from like HK Army. And then third, just keep in mind that when you use the action cameras, you're gonna have to do a lot of editing after you do your recording, because you might not realize it, but there's gonna be a lot of time during the game that your barrel is gonna be facing the ground, or your head might be facing the ground, or you're gonna be behind cover. So there's not gonna be a whole lot of actual action. You're gonna have to edit out a lot of the footage to really focus on the action that you want to present to your fans. And this is why I say you want to have multiple action cameras. Like I said, that guy Nightmare Paintball, the way he does it, he has one on his head, one on the barrel of his gun, and then one on his gun that's facing towards him. So at any given time, he's always got some kind of action to show, whether it's action that he's like peeking out and he sees somebody moving, or he's shooting at somebody, or even just watching him run through the field. So the next thing I tried was a camcorder, and I'm not gonna lie, this was a waste of my time, and I'm not even gonna go into what brand or anything that I bought. I'm just gonna go straight into telling you the lessons that I learned about buying a camcorder. I actually didn't even bother taking this out to any paintball field. As soon as I took it into my backyard and I took some videos of my kids, I realized it is 100% not what I wanted. But it's easy to get sucked into buying one of these things because they're super cheap, and they will advertise themselves as having the ability to record at 4K, and this one even has, it says it has 48 megapixels, and I didn't know any better at the time, so that was enough to suck me into it. Now, after I had made the mistake of buying this, that's when I finally reached out to one of the guys on YouTube that I like to follow. He goes by the name of Soulless Photography, and I asked him what kind of equipment he uses to record and at what kind of settings. This is where I had the mind-blowing revelation that he told me that he records at 1080p, and I was like, what? I thought everything had to be 4K. I thought 4K was like the standard. If you don't buy something that records in 4K, then it's not worth your time. But I was apparently wrong. I learned that most paintball videos actually don't need much more than 1080p at 60 frames per second. And he told me what kind of DSLR camera he uses with what kind of lens. And so then I started looking into DSLR cameras. So this is what I use now. It's a Nikon D3300, and I absolutely love this camera. But I definitely did a lot of research before I went ahead and bought this camera, because a lot of DSLR cameras nowadays are very expensive. So I went with something used, something a little bit older that was for, you know, a more affordable price. And I got lucky and I found this camera for about $300 used, where it originally came out at like $800. And even though it's older, from what I read in the reviews, it was really ahead of its time. So the technology and the video quality that it has is still relevant for the average content creator in today's world. And all of my videos are recorded at 1080p at 60 frames per second. And even when I do photography, really what I just do is I still frame any really good looking shots that I can, you know, pick out from the videos that I take. And the nice thing about buying a DSLR camera is that as long as you buy a halfway decent body, then you can always buy an aftermarket lens to fill whatever needs that you may have. For example, the stock lens that came with my camera didn't give me the right zoom that I wanted. I still wasn't able to get close-up shots at players that were even like halfway across the field for me. And now here's where it gets kind of confusing, because when you start looking at lenses, you really got to start paying attention to the numbers on the lenses, because they all mean something. So for example, if you look on my lens where it has the 50 to 200 millimeters, I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure what that number means or how they came up with those numbers, but I know that it has something to do with the zoom range on my lens. I know that when I zoom in to the full 200, then I can get a good close-up shot on anybody who's like at the halfway across, marker across the field. But I think I still might want to get another lens so that I can even get a further zoom and be able to get close-ups on players that are all the way on the opposite side of the field. There's also some other numbers on the lens that'll tell you basically what kind of camera it fits on. So before you buy a lens, just make sure you do plenty of research on that to make sure that it's a lens that's compatible with your camera. Although I will say Amazon actually has a pretty good list of these compatibilities. So if you start looking for camera lenses, it should, at some point show you a list of which camera lenses are compatible with which camera bodies. The other cool thing about buying a DSLR camera is that it's already paid for itself. After I had gotten familiar with the camera, I decided to take it to my next tournament, which was a weekend-long event, and I played on Saturday while the higher division guys on my team played on Sunday. So on Sunday, I just walked around with my camera asking if any teams wanted to have pictures taken for their event. And since this was my first time doing photography professionally, I didn't want to charge as much as some of the other photographers that were there. I've seen some photographers charge as much as like $150 to $200 just for a single team. I started out low, I just charged $80 per team, but in that one day alone, I made about $240. And then I did the same thing at the next event. So if you're confident enough, then this opens up the door for you to be a bit of an entrepreneur. Also, to my surprise, I have not had my camera get shot yet while on the field. Now, this is probably due to a combination of me knowing the right places to stand or lay down in, and the players being actually tournament level players. But if you are concerned about your camera getting hit, you could buy some accessories to protect it. I actually bought a protective lens for my camera, and I actually bought a rubber protective layer for the body of it. Now that still leaves the neck of the lens exposed, but usually my hand's going to be there anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. So for the price of a brand new GoPro, you can get yourself a good quality DSLR camera, which has the capability of being upgraded if you ever feel like you need to. And it opens up the door for you to make some money in the paintball world. Now, here's some friendly tips for recording and taking pictures that you might think are obvious, but I've noticed that not everybody else is aware of. When you're taking pictures or taking videos of paintball, you want to stay in one spot, or at least maybe one or two spots, but don't be in constant motion. Don't move too much. And again, you might think this is obvious, but the first time that I handed my phone to a friend to record while I was on the field, that's exactly what he did. He walked up and down the sideline of the field the entire time while he was recording, and when I went to watch the video, I had to explain to him, hey, I can't really figure out what to focus on when I'm watching this video. And now, I don't know how true this is, but whenever I hear paintballers talk about why paintball didn't last very long on mainstream TV, the number one reason that I hear is that because it was too confusing for the average spectator. They didn't know what to focus on. So if that is true, then you want to eliminate that problem. You want to get up close shots, and you want to focus on one player or one scene of action at a time. Another friendly tip is you want to get yourself a strap to go around your neck for your camera. And now this is going to do two things. Obviously, it's going to help you so that you don't drop your camera, but also what you want to do is while you have the camera strapped around the back of your neck, you want to hold your camera forward and lock it out, like put a little bit of tension on it while you're holding it forward, and this will help you to stabilize your hands while you're recording. You're probably going to need to still add some stabilization while you edit these videos, but it'll be a lot easier if you can do the best that you can to keep your hands steady. Now that about wraps up my journey through recording devices for paintball. I hope you guys found this information helpful, and I hope it's helped you to decide what you need to record your games.